Hello, hello, hello. Guys, there's a delay due to some technical error on the player's side. Please wait for 5 to 10 minutes. Thank you. Guys, shout out to Bona Hitter for his support. We appreciate it.
The match will begin shortly. The toss has been conducted, and Pawn Stars have the white pieces on board 1 and 3, and black pieces on board 2 and 4.
तो हमारा बोर्ड वन का गेम चालू हो चुका है और यहाँ वाइट की तरफ से है पॉन टू D4, ब्लैक की तरफ से है पॉन टू D5. After then, white goes for pawn to E3. Then black goes for knight F6. White goes for bishop to E3. To board two. Uh, तो बोर्ड टू में हमारे साथ है वरुण विथ वाइट पीसेस एंड सोहम विद द ब्लैक पीसेस. तो यहाँ पे वरुण goes with D4.
Queen's Gambit.
Soham goes with D.
हाँ, तो हमारा क्या मैच चल रहा है देखते हैं।
C3. Respond किया है. Well, okay. Bishop to F4. Respond 6. चले गए on D6. Let's move to board 3.
हाँ, तो बोर्ड सी में क्या चल रहा है देखते हैं। बोर्ड सी में हमारे प्लेयर्स है प्रणय फ्रॉम सेकंड ईयर, रुक राजा जी एंड आयुष फ्रॉम पॉन स्टार्स। तो लंदन सिस्टम खेला जा रहा है। नहीं, ये तो कुछ और ही है। हाँ, सारे बिशप और
बोर्ड 3 चल रहा है अभी और ये
बोलो।
पोजीशन में ब्लैक के 2 पॉन एक फाइल पे आ गए विच इज डिसएडवांटेजियस. तो वाइट की पोजीशन अभी अच्छी दिख रही है। H7 के पॉन से लेंगे तो आई थिंक बेटर होगा, क्योंकि रुक एच रुक H8 पे उसका फाइल ओपन हो जाएगा। इफ ऑफ कोर्स D3 पे जो बिशप है वो G6 के बिशप को लेगा तो लेट्स मूव टू बोर्ड 4। Queen's pawn opening, white moves to D4, black knight F6, knight C3 for white, pawn H6. This is a very weird move, very unconventional, very non-standard opening. I have no clue. Okay, board 2 again. So the position is looks good for white again. Has strong control over the center, and Elo bar says that white is in an advantage. Okay, bishop d6, pawn takes, bishop d3, castles. Okay, okay. Now we will move to board 3. Again, white is in a slight advantage over here. So knight takes on e4, bishop takes on e4, pawn
Pawn
takes,
takes. Takes. Knight takes. Yes, knight takes.
knight takes,
And that's a blunder.
and that's a blunder because the bishop is staring upon it from g6. The black is at a high advantage now
Piece up.
of about 3 points. Black is a piece up.
Now we will see how white will respond.
So white takes the knight back. Pawn is pushed up.
Bishop. That's a castle.
Castles.
Nice.
Okay. Knight in the center for black. White makes a fortress with its pawns, blocking everything in. Okay. Uh, White is at a disadvantage, approximately 4 points below. So now we will move to board 4. So no new moves here. It seems that the players are taking their time to think. Now we move to board 2. Castles for white. Knight to h5 for black. White seems to be in a slight advantage here. White takes its knight to d2. Okay, board 3. So the opponent has not played anything yet. Black seems to be thinking. Okay, knight to f6. The best move here should be pawn to c5. However, white plays queen to a4, which is good nonetheless. Queen b4. Black attacks the white queen, immediately putting pressure. White is still at an advantage of about 3. Hey, disadvantage. Best move for white here should be a5. No, not a5, a3. White seems to be thinking about his next move here. Now we will move to board 3. No, wait. It seems that white has made a move.
White is a very disadvantageous place. क्या ही कर सकते हैं? Queen to c, queen c.
Queen c5. Okay, so let's see what black does here. Best move should be queen
Queen to c
c6 for black.
is a very piece up. So I don't think what he will do.
Black should move to exchange pieces at this point since it's a piece up. Let's move to board 2. Okay, so black starts attacking the white position.
White defends with knight to f3. Well, white is slightly at an advantage due to its position, and the game nearly seems equal. Well, at board 2, player seems to be taking their times. Moving over to board 3. Black responds with queen to c6. Well, it would be better for white to exchange pieces. Moving over to board 2. Black seems to be thinking a lot. So black responded with queen to g4. Well, white attacking with pawn to h3. Black has no option other than to retreat. So they put their queen to g6. White responds with knight to h4. Attacking the queen. Black saves the queen, putting over to g5. Taking the knight as well. Well, knight retreats back to g6. To sorry, f3. And queen now goes here to f6. Moving over to board 3. The best thing a white can do is not to exchange pieces,
Change the queen. Changing
but
the
still
queen.
they exchange. Queen takes, pawn takes it back. White advancing the pawn, c5. Well, now black castles. White.
Sir,
It's
इतना बड़ा blunder.
It's a very bad blunder by white here. The second blunder of this game, hanging another piece. Uh,
In
so
wild
bishop
black
to
thinking.
b1 is clearly winning. I don't know what
Oh,
what. Okay, okay.
I
The
don't know why.
white should take the bishop now to save its rook, but they seem to be fixated on the pawn on b2. Uh, White maybe moved it to protect the pawn. Okay, so b3, that supports the idea that white has been moving to protect that pawn. Let's see what black responds with. Ideally, it should take the rook, and now black is at a very huge advantage, approximately 4.7 points.
Take the rook.
Black is taking its time, thinking about what to do. Best move here is taking the rook. Rook takes rook, rook takes, and okay, black moves its knight. White made a good move here. Black takes the knight. Now rook has moved up a file. Unsure about that idea. What does it do? Okay, so the best move for white here is d1. Let's move to board 2.
now here's the turn for white.
Okay, so the player seems to be thinking. Okay, white plays knight at b5, attacking the pawn, but it seems to be protected. Black moves its pawn up, attempting to create a breakthrough. Okay, black has its queen and rook on the same file, and the pawn is protected by three pieces at this point: the queen, the rook, and the knight. Okay, moving to board 3. White seems to be thinking about what blunder it can make. Okay, so pawn to a3. Not sure what idea is being followed here. Moving to board 2. White has moved its knight into the enemy's palace, taking up some space. It's a good move. Let's see how black responds to this. Rook h7, rook h8 is probably the only move here. Black seems to be thinking, okay, rook b8. Sorry. Okay, white seems to be thinking on this. Okay, bishop on e6, queen takes. I don't like the position of black at this point. There are two pawns on the center, same file. Okay, bishop attacks on h7. The king does not take the bishop. Uh, does he? Yes, that's good move.
The king doesn't take the bishop due to the knight fork at g5. Very well played by black.
Queen to d3. Uh, now supporting the bishop. The black queen moves to attack. Okay, bishop to f5,
Now,
attacking the knight and rook at the same time. Uh,
knight is pinned.
yes, knight is pinned. Okay, moving to board 3. So black moves its pawn to f5. White is still at a disadvantage here, about 4 points. The best move for white is d taking rook to d1, moves its pawn up. The black responds in kind, also moving its pawn up, moving it to g5. Okay,
We see advancement of pawns from both the sides. Well, white seems to reach at no conclusion. Takes, takes, takes. Best move for white should be to resign. Well, still the game is on. I don't know for what they are playing. Well, white is still in a hope for promoting a pawn. Well, white goes with the rook to h1. Well, take black takes pawn. Black breaks to the center. Black is already with a knight up. Black seems to be advancing with its pawn. Well, black moves the king. Now white has put its rook on the same.
now black plays the best move, knight to f6. Okay, sorry, knight to f8. Okay, white takes rook to h2. The best move for black here is moving its pawn up on the f file. Moving on to board 2. So the position here seems pretty equal. The players seem to be thinking uh, white is in a good position right now. So is black. Okay, the position is equal. White is just at a slight advantage, very minimal. I think the king is exposed on the black side. This position should be uncomfortable for black. Okay, black moves its rook up. Okay, and white takes the knight. Takes, takes. Okay, white takes the open file. Good move by white. Okay, so we have a clear diagonal for the queen. The king is very exposed for black. This should be quite uncomfortable. I like white's game here. An open diagonal and an open file. Now white is thinking about its next move. Moving, okay. So knight to h2. White is trying to reposition its knight in some way. Probably now he goes g4 with the knight. Rook g7 for black. Okay, so both the Colors are putting pressure on the king's side. Knight g4 as predicted, attacking the queen. Okay, protecting the queen. Pawn up. Okay, very good move by black, anchoring its knight in white's palace. Rook c3. Black can take the rook here. Uh, what's white thinking?
Well, black is now analyzing what probably white is thinking, and so are we. Moving over to board 3, situations are here still worsen from for white side. Black moves with knight to e6. White responds with rook to h1, putting both the rook on the same file. Well, black from black side, knight captures the pawn, putting over to the d4. Well, white gives a check, putting rook to h6. King moves back to g7. White gives check again. Well, king retreats.
This was a blunder by black. It immediately puts both of the teams in equal positions. The best move here should be rook to h6 for white. Okay, again white loses the advantage, moving the rook to h8. This is a blunder by
White blunders here, and the totally game is in black's hand. Well, and white utilizes this.
white lost its chance to make redemption. Okay, so black blunders again. We again, if white plays this correctly, we can have an equal position again. Okay, best move played by white. Now black moves up. Okay, so both are in equal. Okay, best move again by white. Both are in equal position. White went from losing the game to being in an equal position with black. White seems to be playing well in the end game. Okay, white is thinking. Okay, moving on to board 2. Black to move. Black takes the pawn on e3. White takes. Black does not take the rook on f1. Instead, going back f5, knight to f5. Queen takes. Maybe an exchange of queens. Still, both of the teams are in are in an equal position. Queens have been exchanged. Okay, check. Black protects itself behind its rook. Board 1. We have an update from board 1. White won the game. So Pawn Stars won. 1 point. 1 point to Pawn Stars. Yay! Okay, so the team members of Pawn Stars went to Inter IIT last year. They are 1 point up right now. Okay, uh, Rook to D8 from white side. Still in an equal position, pretty equal position. White has an ever slight advantage. Okay, black is taking its time here, thinking about the next move. Okay, moving on to board 3. White in this board is a pawn up, a very slight advantage. Black is thinking right now. So we move on to board 3. Okay, so we have a very exciting game here. White took back its disadvantage. It is a drawing position right now. If white plays its cards right, he or she might be able to draw. Okay, good move by white. Black tries to exchange the pieces. Best move here for white is taking a check. Uh, Rook g6. Okay, white finds the best move, gives a check to black. Black saves its king. Here, white should give another check. Rook h6, best move. Let's see what he does. He seems to be playing well right now. Okay, white is taking its time to think. Okay, white finds the best move. Rook h6. Black saves its king. Okay, both are still at an equal position. White has redeemed itself. This is a drawing game. Best move for white is Rook h7, looking to repeat moves. Okay, board 2, we have an update from board 2. White wins. Okay, so board 2, Rook Rajaji won. They have 1 point.
On board 3, due to the threefold repetition, it's a draw, and the fourth board is still ongoing.
The stream will restart in 5 minutes. The first round was won by Rook Rajaji by 2.5 1.5 marks. Thank you.
So for round 2, the colors have been reversed. That is, Rook Rajaji plays with black pieces on boards 1 and 3. We start the round 2 with board number 4. We get e4, c5, knight to f, knight to f3, e6 by black, and white lashes out with d4 in the center. White responds by knight to f6. On board number 2,
We start with e4, e6. Black plays for the French defense system, then d4, and black responds by the traditional b5. White plays knight to c3. Black takes. White takes back with the knight. And the most recent move, knight to f6. On board 3, we have the Caro-Kann defense with e4 by white, c6 by black, d4, d5. White decides to play e5. Black responds by bishop to f5. f4 by white is met by e6, closing the pyramid. Knight to f3 played, responded by knight to d7. Followed by knight to c3. How does black respond? Black plays c5. On board 1, we have d4, d5, c4, which is the queen's gambit system. How does black respond? Black responds with c6, the Slav defense, followed by knight to c3 from white and knight to f6 from black. Knight to f6 played by black, followed by knight to f3 by white. h6 played by black. White responds with bishop to f4. e6 played by the black pieces and e3 played by the white pieces. Bishop to d7. Bishop to d6. White responds by sliding the bishop back. Black decides to castle. What does white play in this position? White responds with a bishop move of his own. Black slides the rook over to the e file. White decides to castle as well, and now we've entered the middle game territory. Black slides the queen across. White responds by sliding the rook. Knight played to the d7 square, intending for a push. Queen played to c2. Going back to board 3 now, we left it off at this position. How did white respond to the threat? White responds with bishop to b5. Black decides to kick the bishop back. Takes by white, takes by the black queen, and finally knight to e2, played by white. Back on board 2, We left it off very early. How did white continue his sequence? White takes the knight on f6. Black responds by taking with the queen, and white plays knight to f3, defending his pawn. h6 played by the black pieces. Bishop to c4. Black responds by sliding the bishop, intending to castle, and white supports the central pawn. Black castles. White plays queen to c2. Pawn to b6 played by the black pieces, intending to fianchet to his bishop. White slides with a bishop of his own, and indeed the bishop is fianchetted. Board number 4. We have the knight played out, supporting the central pawn. How does black respond to the move? Black decides to take the central pawn, taken back by the queen. And now white hits the queen with knight to c6, gaining a tempo on the white queen. White slides the queen back. Black develops his bishop. Bishop to d2 played by white. Black slides his queen out. We get bishop to d3, followed by d5 by black. E takes d5. How does how does black counter? Black takes back with the e pawn, opening the e file, and then white plays a3, hitting the bishop, which slides back to e7. Rook played to b2, defending the pawn. d1. Black castles, white castles. d4 played by the black pieces, hitting the knight. Knight to e2. Bishop to g4 played by black. Knight to c1. And black decides to sack his bishop with bishop to a3. How does white respond? Now back onto board 1. Black takes the pawn. White takes back with the bishop. Another central push by black. What is black trying to achieve here? On board number 2, we had the bishop fianchetted by the black pieces. White responded by playing a calm and collected d5, taken back by the pawn. And we get bishop back to d3. On board number 3, we have more progress. We get Rook to c8 played by the black pieces, right sliding the rook on a partially open file, and white responds by playing pawn to c3. Bishop to e4 played by the black pieces, hitting the knight. White decides to castle. We get c takes d4 and c takes d4, opening up the c file completely for the rooks to operate. It seems that black is at an advantage because of the open file he has achieved. -1 in favor of black. On board 3, further we have the moves. After white captured on d4, black decided to play the bishop out. An attempt to trade the bishops off. We get takes from black, takes by the queen, and we get rook played to c2, which shows how dangerous open files can be. Black seems to edging out on his advantage. On board number 2, we left it by when white decided to slide his bishop back. Black responded by bringing his rook. White decides to long castle. Black plays the move pawn to c5. It's immediate that black is looking for the move pawn to d4, which will threaten the bishop. How is white going to save his position? On board number 3, following the rook sliding onto the open file on c2, we get queen sliding to e3 out of danger. On board number 4, we have another move. We get the bishop sliding back to e2 by white. We see knight getting played out. Bishop moves out of harm's way. Bishop played out. Rook slides onto the open file. And finally, we have bishop sliding back. The knight decides to join in, but bishop slides back. Bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop. On board number 3, black has an advantage of minus 1.4 due to the open file it has achieved, and decides to bring his queen out, which is totally leveled the position. Apparently not a very good move, because now the white's knight can close off the open files and attack the queen at the same time. On board number 1, after this pawn push, we get knight to d2 being played by white. Black plays his knight to h5, intending to capture the bishop and opening up one of the files for the queen, the bishops, and the rooks. On board number 2, it seems that we have a blunder by one of the players. Following move c5, we had rook h sliding to g1, responded by black with knight to c6. However, after the move g4, it seems that the white left his knight hanging, which was captured promptly by the black queen. However, it seems the evaluation bar does not prefer black's position at all. What could be the reason behind this? Is there some move that we are missing? On board number 4, after bishop takes bishop, we get rook a played to c8, intending to open up some files, threatening the pawn on c2. And this is the current positions we have now. On board number 1, it looks board number 1, board number 2, both of them, board number 3, and board number 4. All of the games look pretty even right now. No major blunders from any of the players so far. On board number 4, we have a new move. We get rook played out to e1, followed by f5 from black, supporting his knight, which is followed by bishop takes e4, followed by rook takes e4, rook takes back, and pawn takes e4. Now black finds himself very comfortable with two central passed pawns, one of which seems like both of them very close to the touchdown. Board number 2, it seems the it seems that white is in a very precarious situation. After the queen had captured the knight, we saw the move rook to g3 being played, kicking the queen back. After the queen played back to f6 though, we see the move g5. H takes g5 played by black, and now white responds with bishop takes g5. And it seems that black is in a completely lost position. Board, board number 4, a pretty even position so far. We see the queen getting played out to g4. Intending to hit the rook that is on the back rank. White wisely slides the rook out of the way, defending the pawn. However, it seems that this was a big mistake on the part of white, on part of black, because now the queen gets played, and white seems in a much better position. Plus 3.4 to white. It seems that white black's back rank seems to cause him trouble. On board number 3 though, after we see the matters getting leveled out, we saw the move knight to c3 being played by the white pieces. We get queen takes b2, snacking on the free pawn, and knight takes e4, followed by rook takes g2 with a check. King slides to h1, and we get d takes e4, hitting the knight and creating all sorts of troubles for white. It feels like white might be forced to play the move rook takes. However, white decides to take with the queen, and we can see that it worsens its position, because now black can hit the queen with rook to e2. On board number 1, we see the move knight takes. We see the move. The d knight jumps to e4, and black knight decides to capture the bishop. Board number 3, black looks to be in a better position and decides to play knight to h6. It's often said that the knights on rim are dim. However, it does not look like to be the case here, because after the knight slides onto g4, it has a potential target, that is the h2 square. Board number 2, we left it with the bishop targeting the queen. Queen slides out of the way. White decides to play his queen on a more active square, intending to line up the queen and the rook if black does decide to capture the bishop. On board number 4, white seems to be in a much better position here. After queen to d7, we had the move king to f8, played by black. White responded by playing queen takes d6 with the check, capturing a free bishop. On board number 4, black seems to be in a bit of a time trouble. On board number 3, we left the position with black playing knight to h6, responded by the move rook to b1, hitting the queen. Where does the queen move? Queen slides to c2, which has left the white queen free to take an undefended pawn. On board number 1, pretty level position. we get bishop, knight takes knight, followed by queen takes knight, and finally pawn takes queen. Pawn takes pawn, threatening the queen. However, it seems to be a bad position for white pieces, who apparently forgot that the pawn was undefended and also attacks the bishop in the same process, which would mean that if black does decide to play this move here, he'd go one piece up. Board number 4, things seem to be progressing. After the check delivered by the white queen, we get king sliding out of the way, and queen slides back to g7, threatening mate in 1. Black decides to push. Pawn takes pawn, followed by another pawn takes pawn. On board number 3, we had the queen taking the free pawn on b7, followed by castles from black, moving his king to safety. Rook slides to hit the queen. Queen slides out of the way, asking for a potential queen trade. Queen trade accepted by white, taken by the black rook. On board number 2, after the queen decided to move to the d2 square, we got knight takes knight, we got bishop takes bishop and queen takes bishop. White responds by sliding his queen and offering Black responds by sliding the queen and offering a queen trade. On board number 3, after the queen trade, we get knight. After the rook moves to d1, we get the knight coming in with knight to g4. On board number 1, though, black looked to be in a much better position. Plays the move rook takes pawn, which seems like a bad move because now white is free to capture the knight and the white bishop is no longer threatened. We do get h takes the knight, followed by knight played to f6. Rook a played to d1, hitting the queen. Board number 2, we get the queen played on the h file, followed by rook to e6. Board number 3, after the move king to g1, as we saw previously, the knight slid into g4, followed by rook d to c1. Knight delivers the check to f2. King moves to g1, and knight repositions to d3, hitting the rook. Black does seem to be in a better position here because of the threat of the knight. Black's knight is far superior compared to white's knight. Rook played to b8 only seems to favor black because black now slides his other rook behind the first one, aiming to stay on the second rank. On board number 1, position looks pretty even so far. We get queen sliding back to c7. Rook moves to d2. Now with bishop to f5, hitting the queen. However, white seems to be in a bit of time pressure, only under 10 seconds. Board 3. On board 3, white seems to be under time pressure. Will he be able to save this already horrendous position? Under 10 seconds for white. We get takes, rook takes back, moving back onto the second rank. We get knight, moving back, intending to trade the knights. Knight to f4 played, snacking on a free pawn. And rook played to c1 by white, intending to deliver a back rank mate. Defended by pawn push to g6. Pawn to a4 by the white pieces. Black forks the king and the rook. And white resigns in the position, not able to save the fork. The fork too powerful for for the white position to handle. On board number 1, this game was won by Rook Rajaji, who go 1-0 up in the second round. On board number 4, after d takes e pawn, we get the rook sliding to e1. White does seem to be in a better position here because of an extra piece. The black knight played to b4, followed by knight played to a1. Black decides to instigate with the queen. Board number 1, after the bishop hit the queen, we get bishop played to d3, intending to trade bishops. The trade does happen, and white decides to capture with the rook. Knight to e4 played, followed by knight takes e4. We get rook takes e4, followed by rook e to d1, doubling the rooks on the d file. Rook to e7 played by the black pieces, hoping to avoid any sort of back rank shenanigans. White plays calm and collected a3. Black doubles rooks of his own. Board number 4. After black decided to instigate with queen, we get pawn to h2, pawn to h6, and king played to h2. We get king moving to h8. White decides to push the pawn. Knight moves in and white pushes another pawn up 2 squares. On board number 2, looks like all sorts of trouble for black are brewing. After the rook moved up to the 6th rank, we got the second rook sliding onto the g file by the white pieces, intending to hit the king. G6 played by black in desperate attempt to save his pieces, and white decides to sacrifice his bishop. Takes with the rook. We get the takes. Pawn takes rook, and rook takes pawn. King moves to f8, followed by queen to h6 check. Position looks even so far. Oh, looks like black has blundered a checkmate. We get queen played to h7. King moves to the back rank, followed by the rook. And white delivers mate in 1. Game won by the white pieces. Rook Rajaji go 2-0 up in the second round, having already won the first round. Board number 4. We left it in a position better for white. After the pawn hit the queen, queen decided to slide back to the b6 square, followed by rook to e2. King decides to slide back. King moves up. After a waiting game, we get rook to e2 being played. Rook slides to e5. And the knight jumps in. And white and black lashes out with the pawn move. However, if anything, it seems to dent black's chances as white is in an even better position. We get knight takes e3, knight to f4, followed by knight to c4. Rook takes e2. It was a blunder as it seems to even out because after after black takes the rook, it also hits the queen. However, black decides to take with the rook, which and blunders back the game. Now white knight takes the queen. After the capture of the knight with the pawn, we get bishop takes pawn, and, and rook takes pawn. The queens off the board for both the pieces. White decides to capture the free pawn. Now white decides to march his king forward. Black tries to stop with the knight. White slides the bishop back, preventing any sort of movement by the black knight. Pawn move played. Check delivered to the white king. King slides out of the check. Knight moves to the c6 square. And white decides it's time for counterplay, pushing the h pawn forward. The black king tries to stop. Another pawn push. The knight repositions itself. And the king moves forward. And in this position, black resigns, apparently unable to save the game. Another game won by Rook Rajaji, who are up 3-0. On board number 1, the only remaining board, after black decided to double rooks of his own. We get queen sliding to the d file as well, tripling down. After queen played to b6, we get queen getting played back to c3. King decides to move to the more active f8 square. Rook steps up one. However, it seems that black has been flagged, lost on time, which means it's a win for the white pieces. And this game goes to the Pawn Stars team, who end the tournament, who end the round with 1 point compared to Rook Rajaji's 3 points. And the whole tournament, therefore, is now won by Rook Rajaji, who win round 1 and round 2. Congratulations to the team Rook Rajaji, that is our B2 team, for winning the inter-block chess tournament. Congrats to Suhan Bhaiya for leading the best chess rep we ever had.
Congratulations, Juan भैया.